Thinking about moving to Hampton Roads? Well, before you decide to sign that lease or purchase a mortgage in this community, I really want to make sure that you understand what the difference between making a 15-minute commute and sitting in traffic for an hour can really come down to. Traffic and tunnels. And really and truly, you need to know these things in advance that you want to make sure that you're navigating the Hampton Roads community for the best of your ability without being in flood-prone streets, sitting in dire traffic, and definitely experiencing tunnels that can be bagged up for hours upon times in certain given cases. And without you knowing this type of things, this can make sure that your lifestyle and your commute here can feel like a drastic change from the scenery that you may be coming from. And I want to make sure that you make the right decisions for yourself before you lock yourself into a situation and start unpacking that moving truck. So today, I want to break down everything that you need to know about traffic, tunnels, and the flood-prone streets of the 757, and we're going to talk about it all and more. So I'm going to be giving you very insightful information, insider tips to think about when you're commuting and picking out the community for yourself, and exactly what you need to know to make sure that you're making a smooth ride into the Hampton Roads community each and every time. So before we get into anything else, my name is Craig Houston. I'm with the Moving to Norfolk team, and I want to welcome you to the Moving to Norfolk channel. If this is your first time here, hey, we talk about everything that's going on that you need to know across the internet when it comes down to the Hampton Roads community. And I love to make sure that you have all the intricate details that you need, because I've made this move twice and I know exactly what it means to relocate to the Hampton Roads market without even knowing a drop of information that could change the way that you view the 757. And I get phone calls and text messages and even emails from viewers just like you each and every week. And I love helping those who are looking to relocate, purchase, sell, or invest in the Hampton Roads market. And I love to make sure that you have the same service that I provide to them as well. So feel free to give me a call or shoot me a text at any given time. I really, truly do mean it. 757-294-8163. So let's start by talking about exactly where these tunnels are, why this is prevalent to understand, and exactly what you need to do when it comes down to the 757. So let's jump on in over on the map first and foremost and get started here, because I want to show you exactly what I think about when it comes to Hampton Roads and what it really means to understand how to navigate this market. Now, like I always like to typically do, I like to always zoom out a bit here, and I wanted to show you exactly what you need to be prepared for if this is your first time ever visiting our market. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up my marker here, and then I'm gonna show you that this is the peninsula. Okay, you have the Hampton, Newport News, Pequoson, Williamsburg, Grafton, Seaford, all this here, and going all the way up to Williamsburg is Yorktown as well. This is the peninsula. Okay, we're gonna put a big P here. Okay, now that's the peninsula, but down across on the other side of Hampton Roads, you actually have Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Suffolk. All this area down here is going to be considered the south side. We're going to draw a big S there. So you have peninsula and you have the south side. Okay, so now let's take that off the screen now that we've established exactly where you're going to be at in this community. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about the tunnels. We have major tunnels connections here in this market, and it makes a big difference to where you're actually going to be living at in the market. Like if you're on the peninsula side, you have a few ways to get from the peninsula to the south side. Okay, you actually have the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel that's actually going under expansion right now. Then you actually have the James River Bridge that's on the 17 here as well. And then you have the Monitor-Merrimac Bridge Tunnel that actually is on the 664 interchange as well too. These are your three parallel ways to get from the peninsula to the south side and vice versa, south side to the peninsula. Now, also on top of that, here's one of the other things that a lot of people don't realize, that you want to go towards Delaware. We have connection to the Eastern Shore on the 13 as well too. This is another tunnel that connects you here. And when you're going down to 13, there's two spaces here that you actually have as well. So you have one here, and then you have two here to get to the other side of Cape Charles as well on the Eastern Shore of the Hampton Roads market. So when you take that into consideration, we have various ways where this can actually play out for a lot of people. So when you see that all this mass of land here is separated by bodies of water, we have to have a way to actually get to those point A's, B's, and C's, okay? But now even also, if you want to get a little bit more intricate into exactly other areas that has a tunnel in our market, You got one here that goes through the Midtown tunnel over here from Ghent over to Portsmouth as well. So you have the downtown tunnel, and then you actually have the Midtown tunnel as well. So when you have these markets here, you have another body of water here. This is the Midtown. No, this is the Portsmouth, sorry. And then you have the Midtown here. So this is how you get down to where you want to go as well to get to Portsmouth. Or if you're coming from Suffolk towards Portsmouth, you take that to downtown Norfolk, you want to get to the ODU, Hampton Roads Boulevard. This is where you're going to be connected at as well. So let's talk about this from a standpoint where I think this really matters. All these tunnels really can make a difference in how you commute. Like if you're going from Hampton to Norfolk because you're stationed at Naval Station Norfolk, you got to expect that you got to have your commute already figured out. The reason why this is important to note is because traffic is going to be very heavy in the morning when you're actually heading towards Naval Station Norfolk, because a lot of people who live on that side of town in the peninsula are heading to Norfolk as well. And then that traffic is going to be heavier. So you may have to leave a little bit earlier to make sure that you have enough of a time to actually get where you got to go. Remember, there's over 60,000 people commuting to Hampton Boulevard each and every day for work Monday through Friday. And this can make sure that you have a backlog of traffic that you can be set in. Sometimes you can be just sitting on the 564. Let me show you 564 where that can actually be positioned at here. So if we're talking about 564, you can actually see that market is going to be here. 564 is where you actually get to all the terminals that's going towards Naval Station Norfolk. So if you're on this area right here, you'll be on this interchange, and this right here can actually be jam logged completely up, backfilled all the way from each one of the gates that actually get you to inside Naval Station Norfolk. So you got to remember that this is one of those things where you got to just know that traffic can be intricate in those areas. Now, if you're going towards Naval Station, if you're going towards Portsmouth Naval Hospital or the Portsmouth Shipyard, then you're going to have that same experience down here, but it's going to be less traffic because a lot more people are not going that direction. Obviously, a lot of times when I talk to sailors or when I was in the military, one of the major things is that when you was in the yard period, you already knew that you had to deal with less traffic, but you had very slim options for parking. That's where the trade-off came into as well too. So you got to know that the tunnels have a layout and a plan as well that you got to be ready and considering. And if you're going to be coming from any Newport News shipyard, like if you live in Suffolk, you got to know that traffic is going to be going that way too. Yes, less traffic, but it's going to be less parking. So you have to be ready to actually get up even earlier sometimes if you wanted to get an ideal parking space as well. So one of the major narratives that we always deal with in discussion or talking about anything dealing with Hampton Roads, it always comes down to flooding. Flooding has always been something that we need to look at a little bit more in detail because Hampton Roads actually sits a little bit below sea level. And it's so many bodies of water surrounding it, whether you have the Chesapeake Bay, the Elizabeth River, even outside the Elizabeth River, you have the Atlantic Ocean, then you have like even in Suffolk, the Nasmith River. There are so many cases for where you need to make sure that you understand where you're actually going to be living at in these communities and how that can proactively ensure that you may have a little bit more of an expense when it comes to like things like flood insurance. Now, I always want to make sure that you understand that you want to deal with an agent who understands the FEMA flood maps and able to detail these things for you. Like, for an example, I have a client right now who's purchasing a home in Norfolk, and part of their backyard is in not a flood zone, and then another part of their backyard is in the flood zone. So just for that particular little bit of area of flood of the yard that is in the flood zone, they still have to carry flood insurance, even though it may not flood as intricately as possible. But that just tells you that even in your own backyard, you can have two different zoning options when it comes to flood zones. So it's always important to look at the FEMA flood maps. And in certain cases, if it comes down to it, if you already know that the home actually could be in the flood zone, to actually look at elevation certificates. Now, this means that the Hampton Roads already know that they have a problem. Hampton Roads is really trying to address some of the drainage issues that they're having, but this does not mean just because you have SUV that you could not get stalled out and cause damage to your vehicle due to you actually thinking that you have enough room to actually make it through a bigger puddle than expected when it comes to actually navigating the actual flood zones in our community. So One of the things that you always want to do is always understand there's alternate routes or there's alternate avenues to get around those flood zones. And in certain cases, if you're depending on in the flood zone and you're at a cul-de-sac and that's the only way that you can get to your home, you may want to think twice about if that is the exact home for you or not. Because if you can't get down that road, how would you actually get home? So these are some things that I really want you to consider and take into account when you're actually thinking about purchasing or even leasing in the Hampton Roads market. So one of the things that you also want to make sure that you understand is that no matter where you're at, that you always take into account exactly how that traffic and commute can actually be when it comes to a downspell. Now, one of the main things that I always like to talk to people about is that traffic here is horrendous when people do not know how to drive. And if you're coming from places like the Midwest or down south, like Alabama, Atlanta, or even in Florida, or even out west, like in LA, San Diego, or even in Washington State, you can see traffic looks a little bit different when you come to the Hampton Roads market. People really just take a little bit more time on the speed limit, and really and truly, the speed limit in most areas in our market is around 55 miles per hour. Now, police heavily are on always looking on the roads for making sure that people are abiding by the speed limit. But I also see that free-flowing traffic usually navigates somewhere between 60 to 75 miles per hour. So even though the speed limit is 55 miles per hour, you get those who want to be the abiding citizens by that speed limit, and they actually impede and slow down traffic as well. Definitely those in the fast lane, which is usually the outside left lane, always usually seems to have someone in that speed limit who is actually going that speed limit, but everyone else behind them are actually going a lot more faster in traversing the interstates. So you got to take this into consideration as well too, that maybe you want to pay attention a little bit more about how traffic free flows and keeping up with the traffic. Now, one of the main things that you want to know about when it comes to Hampton Roads as well too, and when you get off some of these interstates or some of these highways, be careful. There are a lot more speed zone trap cameras now in our area, and we've seen them go up a lot more, and we're seeing cities are now starting to bring in about $1 million or plus a month when it comes to speed zone cameras. So this is some of the things that you want to pay attention to as well, because the intricate knowledge of just knowing what a speed zone cameras are can preserve you from paying anywhere from a $50 to $100 fine. And get this, even if you're not in the vehicle. So let's take a quick pause from our video before we get going just once more. I wanted to make sure that you understood that we have created the best robust website imaginable in the Hampton Roads market for you at movingtonorfolk.com. Over there, you can find out everything that you need to know if you're a PCS in the Norfolk Naval Station, whether you're selling a home in Chesapeake, you want to know what your home value are, or you just want to know exactly how far your BAH could go in the Hampton Roads market. We have all that over there for you, and those resources are completely free. That's the main point here. But if you want to know everything that you need to know about resources in the area, and you want to know all those things in one spot, we have outlined a resource guide for you for every type of situation that you can find. So head on over to movingtonorfolk.com/helpful-guides. That's movingtonorfolk.com/helpful-guides, and take advantage of everything that we have over there. Go ahead and download what you need, and we love to make sure that you're always going to be taken care of at any point in time. And make sure you always come back, because we're always updating those resources as we need to, as applicable. So I hope you've got everything that you need over there. And once again, you can find everything that you need at movingtonorfolk.com/helpful-guides, and we'll leave a link down in the description below as well. Let's get back to our video. And someone else is driving your vehicle, unless you're detailing to the judge who else was driving that vehicle, you're going to be the one that's responsible for that ticket. So always be mindful of where you're at in the city, because no matter where you're going, there's probably a camera that's always tracking your speed and looking at actually seeing you a mailer in the mail for a $100 speed limit ticket. Okay, so those are the things that you want to pay attention to when it comes to flooding and when it comes down to traffic. So what are some tips to combat these opportunities that you're going to be seeing in the market when it comes down to dealing with traffic and tunnels and even flooding in the 757? One of the main things that you can do, and one of the best cases that you can do, is to make sure that you have Google Maps or Waze maps on your phone for commuting, for navigation. And always check where you're going. ahead of time. Whether you're leaving in an hour or whether you're leaving in 15 minutes, it's always best to know exactly where you're going and understanding what the red and the yellow looks like on your map, because that can always give you a circumvention onto where you actually can experience traffic backup. Like for instance, my community actually is right outside the Highway 58, and I can always see that traffic is always going to be bagging up in that area. So I have another way of actually leaving out the neighborhood, and sometimes that may be more prevalent than not. And in other cases, you want to make sure that you're always thinking about flood awareness. You want to have flood awareness maps on your phone as well too, like AccuWeather or anything or any other weather app or any flood app as well, that can tell you about the community that you're looking at right now. Because this can also make sure that you're being prepared, or you can set up preparedness for what's going to actually eventually come with a heavy downpour. Then also, you always want to talk about your housing selection. Whether you're leasing or you're purchasing, you always want to make sure you have in the back of your mind, is this going to be an area that I'm going to have to really deal with high levels of water? And if I do have to deal with high levels of water because I just can't miss out on this opportunity, do you really want to make sure that you already have it in your back of your mind? What is your preparedness skills levels going to look like when it comes to making sure that you're prepared for what's going to happen? So always think about these things in full effect prior to always making a decision. And when it comes to your occupation or where you're going to be assigned to for military stations, you really want to make sure that you understand what's going to be holding you back to actually get to that job on time. Whether that's going to be tunnels, whether that's going to be traffic, you always want to make sure that you have the route planned out for how it's going to be best utilized and served for you to get from where you need to go from point A to point B. And that can help you really make a decision really when it comes down to your home that you're going to select, because yeah, you may be 25 minutes out, but it actually may give you a better commute than actually being 10 minutes out with the same. You may have a lesser expectation of getting to the base when it comes to a commute, but based on the traffic flow and patterns around the city, that means that you may have the same actual distance to go, in mileage, in minutes, versus the person who's actually going to be a little bit further out than you. So just think about these things as well too, how that commute is really going to look. I always want you to actually experience it a little bit more, but also looking at the maps and actually seeing how time is actually gauged on those maps is really going to take it into account as well. And if you're living on the peninsula side, you really want to be more prevalent and knowing what you're actually getting into when it comes to those areas as well too. Now, one of the things that we did not talk about before we get out of here is that there's easy pass lanes in each one of these cities for the most part. And if there's not an easy pass lane, the downtown Portsmouth tunnel and the actual Midtown tunnel are easy pass accessible tunnels as well too, where you can use an easy pass transponder to limit how much you're going to pay per visit through those tunnels. And even the James River Bridge is on that as well. So you want to make sure that you're using those easy pass transponders as well. This is going to be a benefit to you because it's going to cost you less than to be paying by the plate as well too. So that's what we actually have about traffic tunnels and inside the 757 in flood prone areas as well. Comment down below, how do you feel about traffic and tunnels and even some of the flood prone areas in the 757, and what do you think about those? And what are some of the best commute tips that you can give any of our viewers that's actually relocating to the local market? I look forward to reading your comments down below. I respond to every single comment. So continue to give value back to our community as much as possible, just as much as I try to as well. So if you found value in this content, definitely hit me with a like. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. And like I said before at the top of the video, if you're thinking about moving to the Hampton Roads market, regardless if you're moving in 9 days or in 90 days, feel free to give me a call at any given time. I'm here for you every single day of the week at 757-294-8163. And no matter where you're at in your real estate journey, don't worry, I've got you. Check out this video right here. This video right here is going to be a banger as well too. I'll catch you in the next video. Y'all stay safe. Peace.